Hello everyone. So today we are taking up the alternative distribution theories. So the first one is the Ricardo's alternate distribution theory. So first let's understand what does alternative distribution theory actually mean. So it is talking about, or it will give us clarity how the factor income, the factors of production which are there in the economy, how the income between the land, labor and capitalist will be distributed. So land is paid rent, labor gets wages, capitalist gets profits. So how these will be distributed, and this would be out of the total income which is there in the economy. So total income is distributed amongst them. Now there are different theories. That is why it is known as the alternate distribution theory. There might be a possibility. One theory might state that when the rent increases or the wages increases, the share of profits will decline. So that's how we will have different types of theories. So starting with the Ricardo's theory, one important thing that we need to remember is that it is also called the classical theory. So before moving and starting with this, let's clarify this aspect also, why it is called classical. So classicals, they have few common ideas, which was the classicals, they were more prominent during the 18th, 19th and the 20th centuries. So they focused more upon the long-term perspective. This is one thing. Third, we can say that the classicals, they felt that the role of government should be minimal or it should be negligible, as we state under the laissez-faire theory. This is called laissez-faire, and the role of government is minimum. And another aspect is um, here we would say that focused on the market forces of demand and supply, that will be determining and that will be working and readjusting, ensuring equilibrium is always there in the economy. So that is why no government intervention is required. So these are the bases which we can see even in the Ricardo's theory. That is why it is also called as the classical theory. Now, starting with the assumptions, there we need clarity before coming to what actually Ricardo stated under his theory. So first assumption is that it assumed that we follow the Malthusian law of population. Malthusian law of population is important. It states that the growth rate of population would happen at geometric mean, and the food supply in the economy grows at the rate of arithmetic mean. So it means over a period of time, there would be more people and there would be less food. So food insecurity would be a condition. And as the population, it states that as wages increases, so population will increase in the economy. Population will also increase, and this increase in population then will further ensure that wages remains at the subsistence level. Subsistence level wages would always be there. So this is one crucial assumption. Second, two sectors have been assumed. Two sectors includes agriculture and the industry. So agriculture, further we can divide the land and the labor which will work. Industry will be capitalists. Capitalist class would be there. Third, we can say that it believes in the diminishing returns. In agriculture sector. Diminishing returns, what is the meaning of this? That when more and more labor is employed on a piece of land, the output will keep on declining. That is the simple meaning. And then technological progress or technical progress has not been included in this theory, so it is assumed to be constant in the economy. And fifth, we say that here profits, they are very important. So Ricardo, he assumed that profits are reinvested in the economy, which leads to capital accumulation. Capital accumulates and it leads to economic growth. So this is the sole or the fundamental factor which determines whether an economy will be growing or not. Now we will see that this entire theory is based on two principles. One is known as the marginal principle. Another one is known as the surplus principle. So marginal, it determines what is going to be the share of rent out of the total income. Surplus will decide what would be the share of wages and the profits. So it is called as surplus because again Ricardo thinks that profit is the last thing that would be given out of the total income, and it would be the surplus which is left out of the total income, or the excess which is left, that becomes the profits. So this is the last thing that we will determine ki what would be the share of profits out of the total income. Now in case of rent, when we write this in the form of equation, how can we calculate the rent which is given as a return on land? So we say that total production, and when we subtract the total cost of production, so this difference will give us the share of rent. Now when we break this down further, total production can be written as average production multiplied with total labor which is employed. So the symbol, the symbol or the symbolic representation for labor is the N is used. So this is total production minus total cost of production can be written as the marginal product of the labor which is employed on the land or the agricultural land multiplied with the total number of labor that is employed. Now here we can see that total number of labor employed is the common thing, so that can be taken out. So average production minus marginal product of labor is left inside the bracket, and here we have the total labor. Now when we represent this thing on the graph, here we have the labor employed, here we have the wages, rent, and the profits on the y-axis. So this is the curve for the average product in the economy. This is for the marginal product in the economy. And here you can see that this difference which is there, average product and the marginal product, this gives us this is one part that will give us the share of rent. So you can see that this is the difference between these two figures which are there in the equation form. So how we will represent the share of rent? So for example, this part becomes the difference, and here on the x-axis we have plotted the number of labor employed. So this portion would be represented by the horizontal section, which is this part. Now since when we draw it on the x-axis, this would be the total number of labor employed. Now when we multiply these two things, we will get the shape of this rectangle here. So we will plot it and extend on the x-axis. So this becomes rent. We can label it A, B, C, D. So this is the share of rent that we get. Now, second principle was this surplus wages and the profits. So here we will see that surplus principle gives us the share of wages and the profits. So we can assume, because we don't have any like figure as of now, so we can assume that, for example, this is OW is the share of real wages. Now real wages is depicted by this section only. OW is real wages. When you multiply real wages with the total number of labor employed, we will get the area of OW. So OW and FG. This becomes the share of wages. Now we stated that this is under the surplus principle. So surplus principle states, now this is the total income. This entire area represents total income. Now what is left? Only this area is left in the middle. So this is the surplus or the excess, which becomes the share of profits in the economy. So that's how we can decide, or as Ricardo stated, that's how we can determine the share of these factor incomes in the economy out of the total income. Here we can say, now moving forward, one thing that needs to be kept in mind, generally we see or we believe that the logic says that wages are determined according to the productivity of the labor. But in this theory, this thing has not been followed. It states wages are determined on the basis of subsistence level of income only. So this is how we can say that shares are decided. Now moving to some other areas, or the questions that can be raised on the basis of the Ricardian theory. One would be that what changes can happen when we say that, for example, if the total production in the economy increases, if that increases, how the rent, the profit would be impacted in agriculture, and also the profits in the capitalist sector. So for this, we can simply state that when we say that if the total production in the economy will increase, it means the demand for land will increase, and land is limited in nature, and that too, the fertile land would be demanded because it will offer you more income and more benefits. So when demand for land increases, the rent of land will also increase, because that is the cost or the share that we had stated in the very beginning, that land is paid rent. Now when the share of rent increases, we see that the average product and the marginal product will fall, because the labor demand will also increase in the economy. Labor demand also increases. Now why we say that this has fallen? This was because in the assumption we stated that law of diminishing returns will be operating in the economy. So diminishing returns are there, so that is why this will be falling, and the labor demand will be increasing. So labor demand increases, so wages will increase. Now one thing important is that here only nominal wages increase. Why nominal wages are increasing? Because we have the Malthushian law of population working. Or if wages are increasing, more people would come in, they would demand employment. So that is why only there is nominal increase in the wages and not real increase. So overall, because the share of rent has increased, share of nominal wages has increased, so share of profits will naturally decline, because less is left out of the total income. When you plot this on this graph, we will extend this line further to showcase that there is nominal increase in the wages. So this section, why we are saying nominal increase and how this is representing, because this is the real income which is paid. There is no change in this section. We can only widen from here because more people are getting employed. So this get extended, and this section showcases the increase in the nominal income. So total wages would be represented by this area now, because we have employed more people and the nominal wages has increased. Share of rent is also increasing. Now before this, the profits agriculture may they will fall, but profits of capitalist will also fall, because again less is left out of the total income, and there we see the average product and marginal product is also falling, because here it would impact in the form of increase in the costs for the businesses. So if their cost is increasing, their profits will obviously decline, and gradually it will become zero. Now, how this is represented here on the graph, you can see that this gap will widen, and this share, this would be the share of new rent in the economy. This is the rent. This is again the increase in the wages, and you can see that no area is left for the profits now. So when we reach this stage, it is called, we have reached the state of steadiness or the steady state. It is also called as stationary state. Stationary state. Why it is called so is the question. So it is that state where no incentive exists for the capitalists to invest in the economy. Now, when they're not investing, there would be no capital accumulation happening. And this we saw in the very beginning, that this whole theory is based upon this logic, that if no capital accumulation would be there, there would be no further economic growth in the economy. That is why if no growth is happening, we are at stationary state or at a steady state. So here Ricardo, he further talked about how can we counter this steady state? What measures are needed to counter this? So for this, he firstly stated, in the assumption also we saw laissez-faire, that is no role of government. So clearly stated, no taxes should be levied, no levy or any import duty or customs duty. Why he stated so? Because this will increase the cost of production. Now, as cost of production will increase, profits will decline again. So this is what we do not want. We do not want the share of profits to decline, because profits are reinvested. They lead to capital accumulation and growth in the economy. So again, this is one thing that shouldn't be done. No taxes should be imposed. Second, he stated, if in this question here we saw that what will happen when the demand for production increases. So he states that instead of increasing the employment in the domestic economy, an economy should go forward with cheaper imports. So if directly cheaper imports would be done in the economy, no employment would be increased. In this graph, if we see and understand the implications, we will not see this movement. We will still be at this position. There would be still higher share of profits, and rent would be at this level. So that is why directly going with the cheaper imports will not impact the employment in the economy, in the sense that it will not increase the demand for the employment thing. So that is the solution that he provided, and how can we counter this steady state. Now, when we critique this theory, firstly, he didn't take into account that technological changes are also positively possible, and they can positively impact the economic growth, because technology leads to increase in the productivity. As we can say that if we look back into the history also, industrial revolution has helped. Today we are talking about artificial intelligence. So increase in productivity also helps in increasing the growth of the economy. It is not just only through the private sector investment or the capital accumulation that happens through the investment in money or only the infrastructure. Technology is also at the core of it. Second, we saw that even when we look into certain Western economies, we see that there, if the wages were increasing, the birth rate has declined. This means, now this is completely opposite to what the Malthusian law has stated. It stated that if wages will increase, population will increase. But in reality, population has declined because of decline in the birth rate. So this was seen that this law actually failed to operate, and that's what we can say is the critique. So technology should be a part of it. And thirdly, we can say that role of government is very important. We can't ignore that, or we can't say that today in real life or practical economy there is no role of government, or the role of government shouldn't be there. Economy cannot function purely on the basis of the market forces, so role of government was not included. That is also important. So if we take a example to understand further, so example for here we can see that real estate sector during the time period of 2022 to after 2024, if we have a look at the real estate sector, we see the prices have boomed. Now, why is it so? Because the demand has been increasing. If demand for land is increasing, the rent has also increased. This we are seeing specifically, for example, in the metropolitan cities. If we look at Bengaluru, or we look at Mumbai also, or Delhi also. So there we see that rent has increased. Now, if rent has increased, it means the operating cost of businesses have increased. If that has increased, it means why this has increased? Because they have to pay higher rent. Now, operating cost of businesses increase, it means their profits will be impacted negatively. The profits will decline. And that is why also we say that India being a consumption driven economy, we need to shift more towards, or we need to increase the share of private investment also. So this we can say can be one of the reasons also, the fall in the profits, why the share of private investment is not increasing. It can be one small part of it that we can say. So these are the, we can say, important dimensions that we can take out of this. So in last, if we have to summarize the Ricardian theory again, so he simply stated that when the share of rent increases, profits will decline automatically. Wages are also increasing in a way, nominal wages increase. Profits will decline, that will lead to steady state of the economy. And it is always in the long run, because classicals, they always believed in the long run analysis. So their theories are always relevant for the long term perspective. So steady state will lead to stagnation in the economy. So that's all that we can say out of this theory.
So, in context of economic changes, what we see in the present circumstances,
Ji sir.
especially with respect to the kind of profit and other kind of developments, what do you
Ji.
say that in Indian conditions? What do you say in Indian conditions that how far it is applicable in that context?
So it is applicable in different sectors. Like when we look at only the prices of the agricultural land, also in the North Indian states like Punjab or Haryana, there also, because we have limited fertile land, so there also prices are increasing. So that prices increase, so rent has increased on the land, and because of that, we see that major shift, or the benefit that is happening is to the land owning class. The tenants are again at the loss of it. So that is also one of the area where it fits into the practical life, apart from the real estate sector that we saw just now. Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. So you want to say that India moving towards developed and also a formal economic setup uh,
जी
the developments and the kind of circumstances that we are talking about, it is going to help. It is going to help us, and also what you don't see any tweak. Basically, what I could say, you don't see any tweak in the given assumptions and also formulas.
So we have taken up the tweaks also, that if we see the role of technological sector, whether that will help us in coming out of the steady state or not. So technology will help because it will help in increasing the productivity. India, we say that we are focusing now upon demographic dividend, we are focusing upon skilling and upskilling. So that is also one of the counter or breaking this, the working of this theory. So it is not completely applicable, mostly applicable in only the agriculture sector and the changes in the land prices and in the real estate sector. And one more sense we can say that it is also somewhere indicating the widening income
So
inequality or the
yeah, I
concentration of.
agree. So yes. So you want to say that like China has developed. China was
जी
also
sir.
an agrarian economy in the first part.
जी
So the assumptions and the theory that we discussed, it was applicable over there also. It is
हम्म
applicable in the context of India also when we see the
जी
agriculture setup. And moving forward, it is going to play the same kind of role as far as we can see towards developed economy.
जी सर. हाँ जी. But we are not,
So
we
thank you.
can
We can
see
conclude
again,
with
so
that.
complete
Yeah,
working
please, please.
cannot be seen. हाँ जी.
Yes, definitely. That's what I was saying. Complete working
हम्म
cannot be seen because the assumptions are given in certain context and theoretical proportions. All elements are
जी
not taken care.
जी सर.
So we can conclude our learnings and understandings, and we'll come back with the next topic. Thank you.
हाँ जी सर. Thank you sir.